They float in the air, belch ball lightning, and boast one hell of a big mouth. You're toast if you get too close to these monstrosities.
The name Cacodemon derives from the Greek Cacodemon, typically meaning evil spirit, but scientifically translated as big-mouthed floating thingies. These monstrous psionic demons are aimless wanderers, mostly devoid of cognitive ability, sensory awareness, and typical impulses. Driven solely by an insatiable hunger, appears wherever there is flesh to be consumed. Visually, the Cacodemon is reminiscent of the Beholder, a one-eyed classic Dungeons & Dragons monster with eye stalks instead of horns. It was inspired by a cropped creature known as an astral dreadnought from the cover of the Dungeons & Dragons expansion book, Manual of the Planes. Throughout the Doom series, the depiction of the Cacodemon has evolved significantly. They primarily attack by shooting plasma balls from their mouths, dealing 5 to 40 damage. While these attacks are significant, they are easy to dodge due to the slow travel speed of the fireballs. The real threat is when you are close to them, as their bites, delivered with sinister grins, cause 10 to 60 damage, as if they are delighted to kill you. To make up with their bulkiness, their thick skin grants them a solid 400 hit points, making them more of a threat to your ammunition than your life. They become significantly more dangerous in close spaces or in packs, where their projectiles become more difficult to track. Players can exploit their high pain chance, making them a perfect target for your chain gun or chainsaw. Because of their large health pool, it would be wise to try and force the Cacodemon to engage in infighting with other monsters. In Doom 64, it looks more closely to the Pain Elemental from Doom 2, with chains on its wrists and a color change from red to brown, explained by the story of the Mother Demon resurrecting the remains of demons previously killed by Doomguy. While acting similarly to the original version, their projectiles are now faster and more difficult to dodge, making encounters with large groups even more dangerous than before. Doom RPG introduced two new variants with the weaker Malrath and the more powerful Wretched. The Doom 3 version diverges the most, with its horns removed, 3 sets of green eyes, and part of its brain exposed on top of its head. It is also much weaker, having only half the health of the classic ones with just 200 hit points. Its attack is also different, as its projectile can now be destroyed mid-air. The 2016 and Eternal versions return to the original design, now covered in red armor plates with spikes and featuring 4 small, intriguing limbs. They don't seem to serve any apparent purpose, which leads to speculation. If evolution is possible for demons, perhaps they were once ground-dwelling creatures with larger arms and legs. Over time, they may have adapted to flight, rendering their limbs obsolete. As I played both 2016 and Eternal, it struck me how much the Cacodemon had lost its scariness. Initially reintroduced as a menacing and terrifying foe, it now barely feels like a threat. It can be dispatched quickly, reducing its presence to mere comic relief.
Why, you're a cat.
A Cheshire cat dog.
Geez, weren't shotgun zombies bad enough? At least when you fade these jerks, you get a cool chain gun.
Commandos, heavy weapon dudes, chain guys. These names all fit their bulky and relentless nature. These enemies will make the hatred you had for the shotgun zombies seem insignificant compared to what you'll feel when encountering them. They don't appear in many games, but when they do, they make their presence known as soon as they start shooting with their chain guns, which sound like rapid shotgun blasts. The classic version is the most powerful human-turned zombie, with 273 found in Doom 2, but almost double that number in TNT Evolution with 601 and 704 in Plutonia Experiment. They are much hated due to their unrelenting automatic fire and their tendency to appear in large groups in areas where you have little time to react to their presence. Once they lock onto you, they won't stop shooting until you die or escape their sight. While a good shotgun blast can easily pierce through their 70 hit points, getting close can be dangerous as it mostly gives them a better chance to hit you continuously. Their higher hit points also mean that, while a point-blank shot usually takes care of them, there are occasions when the RNG gods will not be on your side. With each of the 7 shotgun pellets dealing 5, 10, or 15 damage each, there will be times when they do not inflict enough, allowing the Commando to survive your attack and leaving you fully exposed to their fire during your reload time. This is why the Super Shotgun can be considered a better choice, ensuring they are dealt with swiftly and effectively. One advantage, however, is their ability to provoke monster infighting. Their relentless fire can easily hit another monster that moves into the way, and once they start fighting, they can easily stun their targets, preventing retaliation. In the Doom RPG, there are 2 other versions, the Troop and the Assassin. Commandos make a return in Doom 3 with 2 variations, both more resilient than their classic counterparts. Unlike other soldiers on the base, they were not possessed by lost souls, but rather transformed into demons by hell magic.
There is no death for you.
One has a tentacle for an arm and can run quickly toward you, often taking you by surprise. The other, Commando, is similar to the original, equipped with a chain gun, but can now run and crouch, making it harder to shoot from a distance. Another version appears in Doom Eternal as the Riot Soldier, now equipped with a helmet that stops headshots and an indestructible Maker shield, leaving you with little choice but to use explosive weapons.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
Half unfeeling machine, half raging horned devil. This walking nightmare has a rocket launcher for an arm and will definitely reach out and touch you. Make sure you're loaded for bear before you get to this guy. A missile-launching skyscraper with goat legs. Nuff said.
While it feels like a single entity, up to 39 Cyberdemons can be encountered in the classic games, making it seem like an elite hell warrior, rather than a singular figure. Cyberdemons are depicted as half-machine, half-demon entities, with a rocket launcher for an arm, capable of causing massive destruction. With 4,000 hit points, the highest of the classic enemies, the Cyberdemon attacks by firing a barrage of 3 rockets that deal excessive amount of damage. The E2M8 battle is not particularly difficult, even on Nightmare difficulty. The large column can sometimes be a problem if you mistime your attack and end up shooting while in front of it. The Lost Souls add a bit of a challenge, but if you never stop moving and manage to keep them at bay, they rarely become an issue. The real challenge comes in subsequent titles, especially the Plutonia Experiment, where the game not only pits you against multiple Cyberdemons, but also pairs them with overwhelming numbers of other foes. As soon as you see that ugly horned face, it's time to unleash everything you've got on this son of a bitch. BFG, plasma gun, rocket launcher, if it shoots, use it. While today it seems way too easy to beat, it wasn't quite the same 30 years ago. To understand the real challenge the Cyberdemon posed, we need to go back to a time when gamers were not familiar with what we now consider basic elements.
60-degree smooth scrolling and explosive action like Doom 2. It's easy to start playing, but it won't let you stop. Doom 2, it will consume you. Play solo against a computer, against a buddy by modem, or online.
When Doom 1 was released in 1993, the fast-paced first-person shooter genre was barely developed, and controls were not as fluid as we are used to today. The Cyberdemon was considered much more difficult because the concept of strafing, while present, was not completely understood by everyone. Players were accustomed to side-scrollers or top-down shooters and had never really experienced anything like what Doom introduced. I've tried playing the game with the classic controls, just like when I was younger, and it reminded me of why I used keyboard-only controls back then. I wish I could show you footage with my old G3, but it sadly doesn't work anymore. Instead, I'm using the DOS version included with the Steam edition of Doom, assuming the original controls are the same as those I used back then. The arrow keys moved you forward, backward, and rotated you left or right. The mouse could also be used similarly, like we are now so accustomed to. However, you could also move it forward or backward to advance or back up. This was awkward because you constantly had to pick up the mouse and readjust its position. However, you could still use the arrow keys at the same time, so moving back and forth with the keyboard while rotating with the mouse could be achieved and was pretty nice to use. But then I learned about strafing, the maneuver where you move side to side while maintaining your orientation toward the target, a technique that was pretty much the core of the Cyberdemon battle. To strafe, there were two methods. You could hold the Alt key and rotate, which locked your view and moved you side to side. You could also use the comma or period key, very useful as it didn't lock your view, allowing you to strafe and rotate at the same time. The problem was with hand positioning. One way was to have one hand on your mouse and the other on the comma and period key. But then you couldn't use the forward and backward arrow and had to use the mouse for back and forth movement, which was not great. While using the mouse was smoother for aiming left to right, I had to keep my hand on the arrow keys. This setup was fine, except it made circle strafing impossible and evading attacks while shooting at enemies difficult. Now here's why I was playing keyboard only. If you had one hand on the arrow keys, the other could be on the strafe keys, enabling you to circle strafe easily and have access to all other important keys like Shift, Spacebar, and Control. This method allowed you to stay on the move while shooting continuously without having to reposition your hand, stretch your fingers to reach other keys, or change your position completely. Today, I tried to beat the Cyberdemon using keyboard-only controls, and while I was getting better at it, I still couldn't manage to defeat it. I kept getting stuck on columns or caught by lost souls. Adjusting back to the strafing keys and arrow controls was confusing, but I really encourage you to give it a try. It's quite an experience, and it took me straight back when I was younger, like I was playing the game for the first time. As one of the most iconic monsters, its appearance has remained quite consistent across the series. In Doom 64, it becomes better at anticipating the player's movements, pushing you to be more careful and dodge its missile instead of just strafing in one direction. Both RPG versions include the Cyberdemon, with the first title revealing it was created by the evil mastermind Kronos, a UAC scientist working on teleportation research, essentially an equivalent to Dr. Betruger. An interesting detail from Wolfenstein RPG involves the Harbinger of Doom, the final boss, who is a paranormal monster from another dimension meant to herald the apocalypse. BJ Blazkowicz defeats the Harbinger using the Spear of Destiny. The Harbinger tells BJ that he will continue to fight his descendants, which leads into the events of the Doom series, with the Harbinger of Doom being repaired and enhanced with robotic parts, becoming the Cyberdemon. The Doom 3 version features notable changes. Including the addition of a tail and the rocket launcher being switched from its arm. The most controversial aspect was that it couldn't be damaged by conventional weapons, with the Soul Cube being the only way to defeat it. The 2016 version provides much more information about the Cyberdemon. It is considered the pinnacle of success in the development of Argent Organic Research, serving as the flagship creation of the Lazarus Project. This beast is the symbiotic union of a Balgar demon and an Argent accumulator, found during the second Project Lazarus manned expedition. Capable of withstanding extreme punishment, the creature must be kept in permanent suspended animation. Doom Eternal adds more to the Cyberdemon lore with the introduction of the Tyrant. The Tyrant is a demon lord from the black soul pits of Babel, serving as wardens and slavers of the infernal pits. Weaponized and cybernetically altered by the UAC, Tyrants oversee the collection and extraction of sin-branded souls from the mortal world. They are sadistic masters of lesser demons, feared for their cruelty and malice. The classic Doom, RPG, and Eternal versions of the Cyberdemon are considered to be tyrants, whereas the Doom 3 version is most likely a Balgar.
This foe is beyond any